Good morning, traders. Steve Gans here, and welcome to the weekend update for September 21st. As usual, I'm going to start off with SPX. And a couple things to note here. If I zoom out on this, we can see, of course, that SPX was in this very solid trend channel for quite some time until it dropped out on tariff news. And then it clawed its way back up, ran along the base of this channel, and then finally started popping back into the channel. And now I would say we're firmly back in that channel, which is a pretty bullish sign. We also popped out of this wedge pattern that I drew on here a couple weeks ago, this uptrending wedge pattern. So we're now popped out above the top of that. And again, also a bullish note. Another thing to note here is this extremely high volume on that last Friday. It wasn't a massive up day, but that was some pretty massive volume, specifically in SPX. Now, let's look at SPY, of course, which is going to look very similar. I don't have all the same drawings on SPY because I want to keep one of them a little cleaner, but you can see that we're right back into the center of that channel on SPY. Many times at that center point, you'll get a little bit of a slowdown, a little bit of a chop sideways. So that is certainly possible here. Maybe even a little bit of a pullback possibly, but nothing, again, that I would expect at this point, pending any, of course, news-driven information, that should slow down this progression of our markets. The up volume also was pretty sizable there. So not quite what SPX was, but again, pretty strong up volume in SPY as well. And the S&P futures, very similar pattern here, of course, also breaking out to all new highs in the S&P futures. And overall, the volatility in the S&P 500 is pretty close to all-time recent lows. So volatility not really elevated at all at this point. We take a look at the Qs. We're going to see the Qs actually starting to punch out of the top of their channel, which in the past, when they've punched out the top, they have tended to pull back into the channel a little bit. So while I can see maybe a little more up move in Qs, ultimately I would see Qs probably starting to slow a little bit and maybe pulling back into that channel. But the Qs also were up on decent volume here as well. Also, if we look at RSI, the relative strength indicator, we're up here at almost 74. Now, the Qs have held that very strong RSI for extended periods of time before. So that in itself is not necessarily something saying that it's going to back off. But there's enough things here right now that I'm feeling a little bit of maybe a chop sideways or at least a slowdown of the acceleration rate that's been happening in the Qs here recently. Volatility, not quite at all-time recent lows, but certainly not elevated in any way for the Qs. If we look at IWM is, as I had suggested last week, coming into this prior high area. Now, this isn't all-time highs. We're a little higher back here, but this will provide a little bit of resistance in my mind, that prior level. So I would expect IWM to maybe chop sideways a little bit more. And in fact, I'll be sharing a trade concept or a trade idea with you here in a moment or two on around the IWM. And as always, these are paper trade suggestions for educational purposes only. But we'll take a look at that in a moment. So my expectations on IWM are probably a little more sideways there. And then the volatility in the IWM also pretty much at all-time lows, or all-time recent lows, I should say. Gold continues to be strong. Again, I called this channel a few weeks back. I shared a concept trade on gold with an entry right in that area, expecting to at least get to the top of this channel again and a potential breakout, because many times as you get this sort of a bull flag pattern going, they will often break to the upside as gold did here. So with that, let's circle back to IWM and take a quick look at how I might structure a trade around this. So if my expectation here is that IWM might generally chop sideways, a logical trade to consider here might be something like an iron condor, where I sell a call spread above the market, maybe in that 250 range or so, and I sell a put spread below the market. Probably if I were looking at the IWM pulling back, I think this 235 range or so would be a fairly good range. So I'm looking at a 250 to maybe a 245, somewhere in there. So if I were to come in and lay this out, I would look at something like this, possibly 250. Maybe I could move this up a little bit, but I'm going to leave that about the 240. And you'll notice on this particular trade, this particular concept trade, because our markets in general right now are running more bullish in nature, I am looking to structure this in a way that it has a little bit of positive delta. And that's because while I do expect the IWM maybe to go sideways here, I feel like there's more risk, if you will, of it going higher than there is of it pulling back significantly. Because of that, I'm willing to accept a little bit wider risk on the downside than I'm wanting to accept on the upside. That's just a personal opinion of mine based on where the market is right now. So if we come in and we look at our Greeks, we can see that this particular trade, I would be entering with some positive delta. It's got moderate theta decay. This trade is out 26 days. I could tighten it up, go a shorter period of time, but I adjust these, or I will modify these as the trade progresses if I need to. So in this case, I'm okay going out a little bit further in time here to that 26 day and look at this trade. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to save this trade and my demo paper trades, and I'll just put in here weekend update for 9/21. I will copy the link. I'll share it in the description down below, and you do not need to have an OptionStrat account to click that link and open this up. If you click that link, it's going to open up just like this. Then you can come in, modify this trade in whatever way you might want. Maybe click and drag these things around, decide an alternate game plan that you would like to maybe consider, and then click Save Trade. And then you can modify this or monitor this yourself. Now, those of you that are part of the alert service, let's get into taking a look at what transpired here this last week. The first thing I want to share here is I'm continuing to make a bunch of diagonal trades. I'm making these, many of them in the alert service, but I'm also doing a lot of them myself on the side. And this is approximately 4 months of diagonal trades at this point. 94 trades. Out of those 94, I've had 88 winners, 6 losers. So running at 93% still. Early on, it was 97%. And I said after about 30, 40 trades, when I was 97%, I said, that's not going to last. And even 93% may eventually get cut into a little bit. But regardless, this is a very solid trade. The average days in trade is 4.8 days. And then we've got very good expectancy per trade, Sharpe ratios, etc. If I look at the equity curve here, we can see that the equity curve has done very well. I did have this period of dip and now taking off again. This period of dip, by the way, that was a great learning experience for me. I had multiple trades on. In fact, I can show them to you right here. I had a number of trades on that had the exact same characteristics. In other words, I put them on almost at the same time. I sized up on those because things had been going so well. Of course, in normal trader fashion, you size up a little bit. So I sized up a little bit on those trades and then had the exact same trade with the exact same expiration on. I say exact, they were very close. And then the market ended up whacking those trades. and it hit all of them at the same time. I did not give myself diversification in my trades. So when those got hit, they got hit exceptionally hard. And that is what created this particular dip. But that was also a very significant learning experience. And I'm feeding all of these trades as I am developing my Flagonal class right now. All of these trades are getting fed into AI for very specific reasons of analysis and what could or should be done differently, etc. And in the upcoming class, I spend about a half hour explaining about AI, how I used AI in the testing and development of all of this so that people can understand. I'm not just tossing out AI because it's a buzzword. I went through the trading in the 90s when, .com was the big thing. Of course, now it's AI. But you will see in the class, there are very specific and significant benefits that AI has brought to the table in designing and analyzing these trades and helping me fine-tune them going forward. So with that, I want to share with you some of the trades that closed out this week. So in the alert service, you will see these 3 trades on your screen, all closed out this week. Very nice profits. 2 of those trades were closed out in less than 24 hours. And then I'll also put on the screen now some comments from people that are in the alert service and some comments that they had about these specific trades. So check those out. Then if you're interested in finding out more about the Flagonal trade and the deep dive Flagonal class that I expect to be releasing in 6 to 8 weeks, that will probably be in 8 to 12 hour range, that goes into all the details on this trade, best times to open it, best days, best ways to manage it, managing it, up markets, down markets, etc. All those details. If that's all of interest to you, scan that QR code on your screen and get signed up to be alerted when the Flagonal class is out. Anybody that signs up for that alert, you're also going to get a little bit of something extra and a discount when that class releases. Now, if you're just interested in the alert service where I'm actually trading these live right now, it's not the class, of course, but it is where you can see them being traded live. I'm going to put that QR code on the screen here right now as well so that you can take a look, check out that alert service, see if you'd like to see these things being traded live. Obviously, that's not going to be nearly as comprehensive as the class itself when it comes out. But if you want to see what's happening with those in real time when I make those trades, every trade comes with a video that shows what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how I'm opening it, how I'm adjusting it, etc. So with that, we're going to wrap things up here for the week. Take care, everyone. And those of you in the alert service, we'll see you there next week. Take care.